Hi everyone, just want to give you guys a bit of an update before I start this video. I've had this one in my backlog for a bit now, and the reason why I've been slow is because I'm currently a little bit unhappy with the video editing style that I've kind of locked myself into pretty early on. I'm obviously not doing as much with the editing as I feel like I should, and at this point, it's kind of devolved into me kind of rambling on without any cohesion. It's literally just like me riffing, and it kind of starts to feel slow and incoherent, and I feel like I could do so much better. So I want you guys to stick with me for a little bit longer because I'm going to try to experiment with a few ideas and try to push things a little bit forward before I start doing proper reviews. I still recommend listening to these 5 Vaporwave albums. I'm very happy with my suggestions. I just hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys next time. Welcome everyone. In this segment, I would like to talk about 5 great Vaporwave albums. Now, I'm a big advocate for Vaporwave. I think it is one of the most underappreciated and unknown genres ever. So much Vaporwave gets swept under the rug in terms of the music critic community, and I feel like there's so much stuff that goes underlooked that needs to be genuinely appreciated. So I want to start this off with 5 of what I consider to be the most essential Vaporwave albums to dive into the listening experience. Now, not all of these albums are completely emblematic of what the typical Vaporwave album sounds like, but they all sound different enough to be in their own leagues for various different reasons. They are all landmarks in the history of Vaporwave, and all in all, they're just great albums that I recommend all the same. So without further ado, the first album on this list. On the 8th of April 2010, Daniel opened in under the Chuck Person alias, who is otherwise known as Monotrix Point Never, released Chuck Person's Eccojams Volume 1. This is the first Vaporwave album, and I don't think I need to say too much about it, so I'll say what I can. For an album that pretty much spawned an entire genre, it aged brilliantly well. It is very simple in paper and in execution, sure, but the way that Daniel just chops and loops these samples and just completely distorts and decays each and every one of them to a dystopian effect, I think it's absolutely great. There's a lot of great highlights on here. Like, it's a very simple, psychedelic and hypnotic experience that I think is absolutely worth your time if you're looking to get into the genre and looking to dive into the genre's history. My select track, of course, is B4, which is Nobody Here, the first Vaporwave song that came out before the album even existed. I highly recommend this album. On the 21st of January 2015, HKE and Telepath collabed for their sophomore album under the 2814 project新しい日の誕生. The title translates to Birth of a New Day, which I think is more recognizable to others. I'm going to try to pronounce these titles how they're transcribed because, yes, Japanese, Korean, or Chinese titles, Asian text is a very prominent aesthetic in Vaporwave, one of many. Not for any explicit reason, but I think it's just because that's a sort of nostalgic connection that a lot of people have connected to and have remained connected to throughout the formation of the genre and its evolution. But that's not the selling point of this album at all. It is the quintessential dream punk album. Dream punk is a subgenre that kind of deviated away from Vaporwave, but is still its own thing, rooted deeply into the genre, and it takes a lot of Vaporwave aesthetics and puts them in a beautiful cityscape in an ambient and down-tempo direction that found a lot of people falling in love with it, and especially this album. This album, you'll find 3 different types of dream punk in this album that have almost an equal number of tracks to them. You'll get the more down-tempo end of the production that I think HKE gets the most credit for here, like Huifu, Shinjitsu no Koi, and the title track. However, Telepath, the other half of the duo, He's best known for making a bunch of slushy, vaporwavy, kind of what slushwave is as its own style. He pretty much crafted his own style, and you get a lot of tracks sounding like that on Shinjuku Golden Gai and Hiai. I really hope I'm not fucking these titles up. And then the third of these three, which is personally my least favorite, but a lot of people found a lot to enjoy out of those tracks anyway. The drone tracks, there's a lot of just beautiful droning loops that do make for some genuinely wonderful moments on the album, like Toko no Hayoka, Fuwato, and Telepathy. And that's the whole track listing. It's a great, great album. I think it's a wonderful listen. I think it's absolutely worth your time. My select track for this album is Huifu, the first track on this album. It translates to Restore in Chinese. It's the only Chinese title in an otherwise Japanese track list. I don't get why it's like that. But it is a wonderful opening track, and I think it'll take you into the rest of the album splendidly. Just put your headphones in and let this album wash you over. On the 1st of September 2012, Blank Banshee released his first self-titled album, Blank Banshee 0. This is the first Vapor Trap album. Now, similarly to Dream Punk, this subgenre of Vaporwave kind of takes aesthetics and similarities to Vaporwave and puts it in a more electronic and trap twist. It's not strictly trap because there are Vapor Trap albums that put it in a more footwork or juke direction, like Vape Error. I'll get to that album in another video. But Blank Banshee 0 is the first and quintessential Vapor Trap experience. And while it's not my favorite of the two self-titled albums he's put out, I do think it's definitely worth listening to this one first. This is just a nice, fun beat tape of plenty of fantastic and catchy tracks. There's a lot of simple beats on Blank Banshee 0, but there's also a lot of great ideas and some creative sampling too. There's a track that combines the Beach Boys with Purity Ring, and it works better than it should have. My select track for this is Teen Pregnancy. Obviously, it's the biggest track on the album, and a great culmination for everything Vapor Trap has to offer. At the very least, listen to this song. On the 31st of May 2013, St. PEPSI released Head Vibes, his biggest album to date, and for a while his last album under the alias. He came back in 2019 with Mannequin Challenge, which honestly hasn't clicked with me too much, but Head Vibes is the quintessential future funk experience. This is a twisting of all Vaporwave conventions into a very high-tempo disco flair that is so much fun. It's so big, it has its audience disconnected from Vaporwave just like Dream Punk, but even more so. Some people don't even argue that future funk is Vaporwave even, but I'd say so because of its core roots, and I think it deserves a lot of praise this album does for, sure, having simple samples and not too many complex ideas, but giving it an infectious joy that I think is absolutely breathtaking. Tracks like Better, Cherry Pepsi, Around, Skylar Spence, Strawberry Lemonade, and Fantasy, they are wonderful, catchy, and fun dance tunes. And then you have tracks like Together and I Tried and Miss You that are slower, actual Vaporwave cuts. They're very beautiful, they fit in well with the album. I absolutely adore listening to this album. Every time I listen to it, it just completely refreshes me. Speaking of, my select track is Cherry Pepsi. The music video is cleverly spliced together. Like, it's definitely just a bunch of Pepsi commercials in one, but it's edited very well. It's sequenced very, very smoothly to go with the track that is such a great tune. And finally, on the 15th of May 2015, Vaporwave group Death's Dynamic Shroud released I'll Try Living Like This. And if you don't count any of their mixtapes, this is their debut or sophomore album. It's tricky how their discography works, but this is their biggest album to date and pretty much a huge turning point and revelation for how Vaporwave can be sampled. This is easily the glitchiest, most corrupted sounding album to date. There are so many samples overlaying each other into this psychedelic, broken haze that is so psychedelic and breathtaking. It is a wonderful experience from front to back. It takes a lot of weird aesthetics that aren't conventional for Vaporwave, like K-pop
and JRPGs and CD discs, and just splice it all together into one of the most brilliant and clever albums in the genre. And I definitely think it deserves all the praise it's gotten. My select track for this album is Neymar Montogo, the 8th track on this album, and it is, you'll see why. Like, it takes a Sonic R sample and really does some wicked shit with it. I think it's absolutely worth your time. And there you go, 5 great Vaporwave albums. I think these are the most essential cultural landmarks of Vaporwave, one of the most influential genres of the 2010s. Like, even if not many people pay attention to the music, its aesthetics and its penchant for nostalgia, false nostalgia, has laced itself in pop culture more than anyone can comprehend, and I think that is absolutely admirable. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm very excited to continue this segment. I want to talk about more Vaporwave albums. I want to recommend as much as absolutely possible. Have fun listening to all these albums. I'll see you in the next episode.